if I told you that one of the most followed women in the world, who is worth over $60 million, called a style leader, and born into America's most famous family, has spent much of her life feeling like no one sees her? This is not just the story of a supermodel. This is the story of Kendall Jenner, who grew up in the shadow of her sisters, who built a career many said was just given to her, and who's been stuck between fame, trouble, and a silent struggle. From the sparkling fashion shows in Paris to being blamed for being careless about other cultures, from being called the boring Kardashian to becoming the highest paid model in the world, today we're looking behind the perfect image. This is the unseen rise and difficult life of Kendall Jenner. Chapter 1. The sister no one saw. Before fame, before Vogue magazine covers, before the 200 million Instagram followers, there was a quiet girl named Kendall Nicole Jenner, born November 3rd, 1995 in Los Angeles, California. Her last name meant she was always in the news. Her family was like a living gossip magazine. But in the Kardashian-Jenner house, attention was like money. And Kendall didn't have much of it. While Kim became famous everywhere, Kourtney had her drama with Scott, and Kylie built a huge business, Kendall just watched. She once said in interviews that growing up, she felt like the odd one out. Not loud, not dramatic, not interested in selfies and scandals. She was, in her own words, more of a tomboy than a girly girl. But in a family that loved being the center of attention, being quiet often meant she was overlooked. And that hurt. So when the cameras of Keeping Up with the Kardashians started rolling in 2007, Kendall was just 11. Unlike her sisters who loved fame, Kendall stayed back. She wasn't chasing fame, but it was chasing her. Chapter 2. A model. Or someone famous because of her family? At age 14, Kendall signed a contract to be a model. She wasn't just trying it out, she was serious. The runway wasn't just a way to get away, it was her way of fighting back. Her way of making her own name, separate from Kim. But as her face started appearing in ads for clothes, people had questions. Was Kendall Jenner really a model? Or just another Kardashian using her family's name to get ahead? Her success happened fast and seemed a little too easy. One minute she's modeling for Forever 21, the next she's closing a Chanel show in Paris. Critics called her a nepo baby, someone who gets jobs because of their famous family. Designers whispered, "She doesn't belong here." And many models who worked hard for years without anyone knowing them were upset by her quick success. But behind the glamour, Kendall was dealing with very strong anxiety. She'd have panic attacks before shows, lock herself in bathrooms, find it hard to breathe. She later said, "There were nights where I'd wake up in the middle of the night in a full panic." Fame, it turned out, had a price. Chapter 3. Pepsi, protests, and public anger. Then came the moment that almost ruined her career. The 2017 Pepsi ad. In the ad, Kendall, who is worth over $60 million, hands a police officer a can of Pepsi during a protest. And suddenly all the problems disappear. The internet exploded with anger. People accused the ad, and Kendall, of making light of real protests for people's rights and turning a serious issue into a sales trick. It wasn't just out of touch, it felt careless. Kendall faced a storm of anger online. Memes, angry comments, articles. Overnight, she went from a fashion favorite to someone people were angry at. She later cried on her family's TV show, saying, "I would never hurt someone on purpose, ever. And I would obviously, if I knew this was going to be the result, I would have never done something like this." But the damage was done. The anger was so strong, Pepsi took down the ad within 24 hours. And for the first time, Kendall learned what it felt like to truly face the public's anger. Chapter 4. The silent struggles. Even with all the fame, Kendall, who is worth over $60 million, has always struggled with her mental health behind the scenes. In 2018, she was one of the first in her family to talk publicly about her anxiety. Not just stress, but real, strong anxiety that felt like she couldn't breathe. In a powerful interview she shared, "There's a lot that people don't see. I wake up in the middle of the night with full-on panic attacks. I can't breathe. I cry for hours. And then I have to go out and smile like everything's fine." She even took breaks from social media, something almost unheard of in the Kardashian world. But the pressure never stopped. For every Vogue cover, there were 10 articles calling her privileged, meaning she had an unfair advantage in life. For every walk in a fashion show, there was a funny picture making fun of her walk. For every boyfriend, there were news headlines. And in a family where everything is shared online for people to see, privacy is something special Kendall never had. Chapter 5. Dating in the Spotlight. Let's talk about her love life. Kendall's relationships, unlike her sisters, have always been kept very private, but that hasn't stopped the internet from digging for details. From Harry Styles to A$AP Rocky to NBA stars like Ben Simmons and Devin Booker, Kendall has been connected to some of the most wanted single men in entertainment. But every relationship came with judgment. She's been called a serial dater, someone who dates one person right after another, accused of trying to get more famous, and even blamed for her boyfriend's losing games. Yes, really. There's a whole fan theory among NBA fans about the Kardashian curse. Yet Kendall never argued back, never went on angry rants, never posted unclear messages on social media. She kept her journey private. But just because she wasn't loud didn't mean she wasn't hurt. Chapter 6. The Billionaire Sister and Feeling Lost. While Kendall, who is worth over $60 million, built a name in fashion, her younger sister Kylie was building a business worth billions of dollars. Suddenly, the little sister was making more money than everyone, including Kendall. And with Kylie's huge fame came something worse for Kendall: being compared. Every move Kendall made was compared to Kylie. Even in projects they did together, like their makeup line, Kylie stole the spotlight. Some fans called Kendall the boring one. Others said she had no personality. It was like being famous, but feeling unseen all over again. She admitted in one episode of her family show, "Sometimes I feel like I'm just a doll in the background." It was a very honest moment that showed even when you're at the top, you can feel very lonely. Chapter 7. Problems and Public Criticism. Kendall's career has also faced stronger criticism. From anger over times when she was seen as careless about other cultures, like wearing a certain hairstyle in a Vogue photo shoot that was criticized, to appearing in certain ads, her public image has been difficult. And unlike her sisters, Kendall rarely talked about these problems directly. This led some to believe she didn't care, that she was just getting by easily because of her looks and good publicity. But others saw something different. A young woman who grew up too fast, who never asked for fame, who was trying, not perfectly, to grow up in front of millions of critics. Chapter 8. The New Beginning. In recent years, Kendall has taken more control of her own story. She launched 818 Tequila, which is now worth over $500 million, starting her own business, but even that wasn't easy. The brand faced anger for being careless about another culture after an ad showed Kendall riding horses in agave fields while wearing what some saw as a copy of traditional Mexican clothes. Once again, trouble found her. But Kendall didn't run. She grew the brand, continued to work, and 818 became a huge success. At the same time, she became more open about mental health, started showing more personality on new shows like The Kardashians, and even started trying out acting and creative work. The shy girl who once said, "I don't like being on camera," was slowly becoming more confident and in charge, on her own terms. Chapter 9. The Real Kendall. So, who is Kendall Jenner? A rich kid who got lucky? A style leader who succeeded against the challenges? Someone who got famous from her family? Or a real businesswoman? Maybe she's all of that. And maybe none of it. Because Kendall Jenner isn't the loudest Kardashian. She doesn't have the most drama. She's not the funniest or the most wild, but she's the most human. Imperfect, anxious, trying, making mistakes, getting through it. And somehow, in a world that makes money from showing a perfect life, that makes her stand out even more. Kendall once said, "I wasn't naturally made for this life, but I've learned to deal with it. I'm trying to live a life that's true to who I am." And maybe that's the real lesson here, that fame doesn't always fit, that not every story needs to be loud to matter, and that behind the photo filters and fashion shows, there's still a girl who just wants to be seen.